WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Jamie Foxx returned to the stage in Atlanta for the first time in 18 years, sharing his joy on social media. He described the performance as an artistic explanation of his experiences following a medical complication in April 2023, which left him unconscious for 20 days. The retrial of 2 white Mississippi men accused of shooting at a black FedEx driver in Brookhaven is set for spring 2025. The first trial ended in a mistrial after a police investigator withheld evidence. The driver, DeMontario Gibson, was later fired by FedEx during the investigation. FEMA is pausing aid in parts of North Carolina for Hurricane Helene recovery due to threats against emergency personnel. FEMA locations in Ash will remain open as they assess the situation. During his performance at Radio City Music Hall, Barry Manilow encouraged the audience to get out and vote. The 81-year-old Brooklyn native joked, quote, "Maybe I'll run for mayor. I hear there may be an opening," end quote, prompting laughter from the crowd. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Join New Schools for New Orleans, All-State Sugar Bowl, and Entergy New Orleans in recognizing and celebrating the Teachers of the Year at our 3rd annual New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Awards, NOETA Gala. The gala will take place Saturday, November 2nd at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. This year's gala will feature Grammy-nominated Tank and the Bangers. Don't miss out on this intimate celebration supporting our New Orleans public school teachers. Tickets can be purchased on our website, newschoolsforneworleans.org.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning. Wake up, New Orleans. Good morning and welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
I am Dr. Ashanta White. My co-host in studio this morning is none other than
Senator Wesley Bishop.
And Nyron is behind the glass holding us all together. Couldn't do it without you. Hey, Nyron. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. So listen, we're going to open this show up telling you there's, 20 days?
20 days.
20 days until Election Day. Early voting is right around the corner, October 18th. It ends October 29th. So if you want to knock it out already, get up, get out, and go vote on the 18th.
Put the votes in the bank.
So we're talking about voting, and we're talking about the importance of the presidential race. See, I see that Harris is going. Well, she's going to, and listen, she's going to all of the, I guess, battleground
states.
They like to call them, and she's on a press tour, trying to make certain that she can talk to all of the outlier populations as well, because I see she's gone to some podcasts. She sat down with the Breakfast Club yesterday. I think they did like a town hall with Charlemagne the God. It was an audio town hall. So she's doing that. I've seen her on all of the late night talk shows. She's really out there. So I see she's having a presidential town hall as well in 7 days.
That's what it seems like, yes.
In 7 days on October 23rd, which is smack in the middle of early voting. I think it's important to get out and get to the polls. What I think is even more important is to pay attention to the local races. And this morning, we're going to talk about the District 2 and District 4 school board races. NOLA.com has an article out that says, in New Orleans, school board races, debate centers on charter versus traditional schools.
Correct.
And I'm not going to go on a rant this morning about this because I think people understand very clearly where I stand with this. I don't even understand why in the year 2024 we're still talking about charters versus traditional schools in terms of like that's the only thing. Because that's what they want to minimize it to. This is not about simply charters versus traditional. This is about money versus no money. Let's be honest here. This is not like most of the people who are running on the charter platform are heavily funded.
Okay.
To continue pushing this narrative that charters is the only solution, or charters are the only solution to the academic issues in New Orleans. That is where the fallacy is for me. It is not true. Charters are not the only solution because if we look, since the conversation is traditional versus charter, if we look pre-Katrina, which I'm tired of them doing,
okay,
but if we decided to do that, there were only a handful of schools that were failing pre-Katrina by the standard that the recovery school district set as the thermometer for failure, right? So if there were only a handful of schools that were failing, like how do they justify saying that charters are the only option? Because we work public traditional schools pre-Katrina, they work.
Correct.
Aren't you a product of a public school?
McDonald's 35 Senior High School.
As am I, a product of a New Orleans public school. So you can't sit in our face and tell us that the charters are the only way. So I don't really even understand this conversation anymore. We are 20 years in. We ought to be saying this is charter versus charter, which is going to give credence to the perspective that we need other options, because charters by and large are not doing what they proclaimed they were going to do. So we need to have access to more options. I don't understand why, the pro-public school advocates can say, we don't think all charters are bad. There are some charters that work for some kids, but you can't get them to say some traditional public schools were doing well, and we ought to give kids access to traditional public schools if that is the choice of the family.
Doc, I think you're making a very valid point. When we take a look at it, it seems to be a pretty simple conversation. I think most individuals, and I've made mention a couple of times that I have 2 school-age kids, and when my wife and I were trying to make a decision as to where we're going to send the kids to school, that was kind of difficult. We simply wanted a quality school that would educate our kids. The idea of charter wasn't anything that was even on the table. And so the idea that we had then was, in fact, traditional public schools. And we were able to find a traditional public school that served our kids' needs. We need enough seats in quality schools that every parent has the option to send their kid to a quality school. And the reality is this: if you want to make the argument that, one, there were great public schools and there were some not so great public schools, I'm okay with that conversation. But you also got to make the same argument that there are some great charter schools and some not so great charter schools. And as Doc mentioned a second ago, when we look back to 2006 when Hurricane Katrina happened, and moving forward, that conversation of what's going on now in 2024 as opposed to what went on pre-2005, I think is a fallacy argument. There is enough data that's here so we can have a conversation as to what's been going on for the last 20 years and just simply call a spade and move forward and do what's in the best interest of our kids.
Yeah, listen, there are 2 seats that are up in the race for school board. Katrina Chantel Griffin is challenging incumbent Dr. Donaldo Batiste for the District 4 seat. Chan Tucker, Eric Doc Jones, and Gabriella Bureau are vying for the the District 2 seat for the school board race. As you know, District 2 is an open seat.
Correct.
And so, I'm just disturbed by how many times we're going to allow this same game to be played on us. It's the same script, different actors. Every year they find somebody to jump in certain races and vie for seats that they have zero interest in, because what we've now come to understand is that a seat is just power to some folk. It's the power to create policy for children. It's the power to decide who gets the contracts for busing and food. And that's all this is about. And it bothers me when I go to these forums and these moderators and people who are in charge of the forums are allowing folk to sit on platforms and say things and nobody's challenging them based on what the data is telling us. I have yet to run into any candidate that is running, on a platform that talks about how destructive our school system was and how much better it's doing now. None of them can tell me why our kids can't read. None of them.
Gotcha.
And until you could jump that hurdle, I don't even understand why this is a conversation about how well the schools are doing. We know there are some schools that are doing well no matter what banner you put on them, no matter what you decide to call them. Mm-hmm. So my question is, outside of those schools, why aren't our children reading?
Okay.
There's this current state of education in the state of Louisiana. There is more money being poured into the charter schools in Orleans Parish. There are more resources there. They have enough money to do whatever, however, and whenever. So why aren't you paying qualified people to interface with our children? Why are you giving this money to novice educators educators in quotation marks, because we do know that people can walk out of any profession and walk into this one and pretend that they are the expert. So if you have all of this money and all of these resources, why are you cutting corners when it comes to the education of our children? And cutting corners means, why are you settling for a populace of people to educate them who are not certified, credentialed, or qualified, when there's a whole bunch of teachers out here struggling to find jobs? And I'm talking about people who are university trained, people who have gone to alternative certification programs, people who have sharpened their knives in the academic arena, who want to be able to give back to our children, and they're finding it very complicated to get into this system.
Doc, we've talked about this a few times, and the one thing that kind of started this conversation is when I guess BGR came forward and they had their presentation, and they had the individual who came in and talked about charter schools. Now, they thought it was a mistake for the one school that's being directly run by the school board, how that was a mistake. To me, that really just made no sense whatsoever. And what bothered me so much about it is that if we really, even if you, let's say you make the argument that schools who are properly funded, who have qualified educators, and who are folks who can actually do the job, and with the right resources, that's a formula for success. But if that's the formula of success, why not use those same ingredients? Apply those ingredients to the one school that's being run as a direct run school, and see if this school can replicate the success and then move forward with it. If that's the case, simply take that same resource or those same resources and apply it to this conversation. Well, about we have the school board and many individuals who sit on the school board now, and many of the folks who are candidates for the school board who would like to see the school board take over more direct run schools. It was problematic when we had a situation whereby to have a school board to say that we don't want to run schools anymore. I was in the legislature when that conversation began to take place. And to me, that made no sense. When I talked to my colleagues around the state of Louisiana, none of them would stand for that to actually happen. They wanted to make sure that the folks who decided that they were going to run for the school board, those established school boards that were there around the 66 parishes in the state of Louisiana, they did their job and they ran the day-to-day operations of the school. For New Orleans school board to decide that they're going to simply step away from that, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense whatsoever. And for many of the rationales that have been told and put out there why that should happen and how schools can improve, I think the data suggests that 20 years later, we just don't see that kind of improvement.
Well, in the District 4 race, Dr. Donaldo Batiste is saying, instead of inviting new charters to come, we're directing the superintendent to bring back district-run schools. He said that at a recent candidate forum. But as we all know, two of the candidates are backed by a national pro-charter organization, while other candidates say they want the district to take over more struggling charter schools, turning the races for the two contested board seats into proxy battles for charter versus traditional school governance. So that is why the article is boiling this down to charter versus traditional schools, because the candidates are pro-charter versus pro-public schools. So that's basically what it is. Dr. Donaldo Batiste is saying he wants the district to run more schools. On the flip side, Eric Jones is saying the district should run more schools, but Chan Tucker in his race is saying, charter schools are better. And so Gabriella Biro is also in that race, and she was on a panel, and I know that she said she just wants a good school, whatever that should look like. But I think it's important for people to stop talking in generalizations and talk in specificity, because what is a good school, right? Because if you want to define it, then you're going to realize that what you're asking is what schools all across this country, that's the formula for all of them. You have resources, you have funding, you have qualified people, you have people who are experts in their respective lanes, whether it be English, language, arts, mathematics, social studies, science. You have people who have actually studied that specific content to be able to then teach it. And so if that is the formula, then why are we sitting here trying to reinvent something or mask failure in something so that we could keep pushing poison on people? Because that's what it feels like to me. It feels like you're okay with serving our children this because your children don't necessarily have to eat it. Or you don't necessarily have to live in the ramifications of it because you're not living in communities where education is the last priority on the list. which is why crime will always go up, because you're not prioritizing the things that actually sustains a community. And education is a pillar. There is no way you could strip schools of all of these resources and then think that kids are going to just go out into society and just know what to do and how to do it when they're lacking foundational things in terms of education. Reading and writing are foundational, and the fact that our kids can't read, I believe, is criminal.
You don't have to be a rocket science to try and understand those basic pillars that you speak of that are necessary for any school to succeed. And for the idea to paint the idea and to push the program that only charter schools can be successful because they have a magic potion as to what it needs to move forward. Anyone that spent any time in New Orleans, there are schools, and if you want to go back to have a conversation in 2025, I'm sorry, back in 2005, prior to Hurricane Katrina, it was important to make a decision as to where you're going to send your kids to school. And the reason why parents were so worried about that, because they wanted to make sure that their schools had a chance to move forward to try and make sure that everything worked out fine and they had a good opportunity to succeed.
Listen, we have a caller on line 1. Good morning, Dr. Batiste. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well.
Good morning, Doc.
Here this morning.
We're good. It's good to hear from you. It's good because
Thank you for calling in.
We're having this conversation about the article that came out in the NOLA.com, and it's talking about how your race in particular, just like the other district race, is coming down to pro-charter advocates and then traditional school advocates. So what do you say about that? What is your stance in terms of what is a good school?
Well, first of all, let me share with you that my race is about quality schools for all children. It's not that I'm pro-charter or pro-traditional. I want the best schools for all of our children. And I just believe one size does not fit all. And so those of us who are educators and know the diversified needs and learning capabilities of our children, we have to meet them where they are. And I think when we add choice and voice to the mixture, we have a better opportunity to satisfy the needs, particularly those of our families who are reaching out to us, saying to us, this must come to a stop. Our schools are no longer our schools. Our schools have become private schools being paid for with public dollars because we don't have a choice and we don't have a voice. And when we run into problems and concerns, the people whom we elect to represent us have no voice because of the legislation that's in place. So the only way to recapture what we know as quality schools is to be able to put schools back under the direct auspices of the elected board that hires the superintendent and is in charge of running the school district.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. I think that it does a disservice to our argument, to people's argument who just want quality schools, to try to box us into saying that we're anti-charter. We're not anti-charter. I know I'm not. I don't run around trying to dispel, what is working at charter schools, because in fact, that's what the law says. If it's working, replicate it. If it doesn't, give the schools back to the board and allow them to run them. But closing schools is not going to get us where we want to be in terms of growth in academia. Just constantly closing schools isn't going to get us where we're trying to go. So we thank you for your call. Is there any parting words you want before you leave us this morning?
Well, I want the people, particularly those people in the District 4 area, to know that there is only one qualified candidate who's in this race who has their voice and best interest at heart. I'm here because it's out of my passion for teaching and learning. My campaign is not being funded by the big dollars that are funding in from throughout the United States and abroad. My monies are grassroots monies, and they're monies that are coming from hardworking families who are trying to make certain that their children are not left in a lurch when it's time for them to get out and to perform and to provide services for us in the future. So if you're looking for a qualified candidate, one who has a proven track record of commitment to families, services to children, quality education, I'm the only candidate. It's Dr. Donaldo R. Batiste, number 14 on your ballot. Get out, vote early, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and make certain that the word gets out there. There's only one candidate for District 4, and it's Dr. Batiste.
Thank you, Dr. Batiste. We appreciate you. Listen, this is WBOK 1230 AM. Look, we always seem to get exclusives around here. I didn't know he was going to call, but I'm glad he did. The number here is 504-582-9422. We'll have more valid conversation after the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Start your day off right.
Just getting your day started.
Early morning gospel on WBOK 1230 AM.
I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. Happening today, a former building inspector appears in federal court to enter a plea on bribery charges. Prosecutors allege Randy Farrell accepted bribes to let unlicensed electricians work on hundreds of New Orleans homes. Prosecutors also allege Farrell bought Mayor LaToya Cantrell expensive gifts, and that the city's chief administrative officer, Gilbert Montano, asked Farrell's associate to give him expensive football tickets. Both Cantrell and Montano say they did nothing wrong. Farrell will appear before a federal magistrate judge today at 2 p.m. New Orleans detectives continue to investigate into how one man ended up dead inside a home in St. Roch on Monday. Residents were shocked to hear someone in their community was killed. Neighbors believe this stemmed from a robbery, but hope to get answers soon. Police have not identified the victim or any possible suspects in this homicide investigation. But if you know anything that can help police, you're asked to contact Crime Stoppers. And the city of New Orleans adding one more event to a jam-packed February calendar. We've got the Super Bowl, Mardi Gras, and now an epic crossover of the two, a carnival-style Super Bowl parade. The plan is for revelers and the NFL to parade on the French Quarter and through the CBD, throwing NFL-themed beads aboard current floats. And of course, your favorite marching bands will step into the rhythm and brass we all know and love. WDSU is the official broadcast partner of the New Orleans Super Bowl Host Committee Parade. I'm Daryl Forges, and that's your headlines for WBOK.
NOLA Public Schools is excited to be on this 2024-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars. Attend today, achieve tomorrow.
New Orleans Burlesque is back. The Red Light District, located on the second floor of your New Orleans headquarters by Nice Guys, presents a captivating, international award-winning burlesque experience that will leave you breathless. Indulge in the sounds of our Grammy Award-winning quartet and exceptional food pairings each and every Saturday. To purchase tickets, visit Eventbrite.com, and remember, what happens in the Red Light District stays in the Red Light District.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank. There's freedom here.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
And we are back. Good morning. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. In studio with me is Senator Wesley Bishop. And behind the glass holding us together is the one and only Nyran. We want to thank Dr. Donaldo Batiste for taking time from his busy morning to call in. If you want to call in and discuss anything that's on this ballot, the number here is 504-582-9422. We are particularly talking about the local school board races this morning, though.
Correct.
And Dr. Donaldo Batiste is the incumbent in District 4. He is being challenged by Katrina Chantal Griffin, is her name. She is she's being backed by the charter organizations. She is I know a mother. Her documentation says she's an accountant. She does volunteer work for a plethora of community groups, including as a certified police mediator and education fundraiser. She has 2 children who graduated from the New Orleans Public Schools. She says she will focus on teacher retention, data transparency, and truancy. Like Chan Tucker, who's in the District 2 race, she's also being endorsed by the pro-charter group Democrats for Education Reform. She's saying, as she's quoted as saying, "I don't care if you're district run or charter run. I support good schools and we need more. It's just that simple." So if it's just that simple, then there should be no opposition to allowing more schools to be direct run, right?
That seems to be
If
simple.
that's what she said. I don't know if they know she said that, but that's what she's quoted as saying in this article. So if it's just that simple, if you don't care if it's district run or charter run, that's exactly what we're saying. Like, running it, looking, if you're doing well running as a charter,
replicate it.
Then replicate it. Go ahead on and run. But in the case where we have more DNF schools than we have schools that are actually progressing towards true academic growth, then you have to open up options. You cannot have a 100% charter run district and think that you're servicing 100% of the children and their needs.
I think what Dr. Batiste said a second ago just makes a lot of sense when he said one size doesn't fit all. And so if you realize that there is no one particular type of school that can provide quality education, the conversation should be relatively simple. Let's simply replicate what's working, whether or not it's in a charter school, whether or not it's in traditional public schools, so we can provide quality schools, have more quality seats for all the children in the city of New Orleans.
So what happens when your narrative that you're stumping around saying as a candidate, because to say, I don't care if it's district run or charter run, I support good schools and we need more, it's just that simple. How does that not run counter to the people who are funding you and what they're saying about public schools and traditionally run schools?
Well, you almost need to have both of them at the table at the exact same time so you can actually ask that question. I would think that for those folks who are, and I'm familiar with some of the organizations that we're talking about, and for those who are extremely interested and are pro-charter, to hear the conversation and see a candidate that you're backing to make that statement, as you said, that seems to run counter to what is that they're actually saying. Now, if a candidate truly means that and will stand on that if they happen to get elected, I think that's where some of the folks might have a problem with that.
No, I think for me, I think it's about moving the goalposts. I think now you're trying to say what you think people
I would agree with that.
In terms of pro-public education, I think you're trying to change your messaging to include sentiments that they believe in. Because if you truly believe that I don't care if it's district run or charter run, then the propaganda that's on the flyers that have your face on them wouldn't say the things that it's saying in terms of how bad our school district was. The BGR wouldn't have allowed this man to stand on a stage and say the things that he said about Leah Chase School, which has only been in existence for a few months.
Correct.
They wouldn't have allowed him to say those things if you really believe that it doesn't matter what you call the school, you just believe in a good school. So why can't Leah Chase just be viewed as a good school option for the community? Well, why are you tearing it down?
I think that's a question that would be direct, that would be greatly asked and answered by the actual candidates who are actually saying that.
Yeah, or her handlers, because again, that is what she's quoted as saying, but that's not what the flyers and the mailers are saying. We know she's not writing the mailers. She's not writing the flyers. It's the people who are funding her. They're putting that flyer together.
Okay.
So if what you're saying on the flyer with your face on it is what the people backing you believe, then how can you get quoted as saying, I don't care if it's district run or charter run, I support good schools and we need more. It's just that simple. That's exactly what Dr. Donaldo Batiste just said. So are you now puppeting his message to try to appear as though you're not like staunchly against public schools? Because every chance that, we get to sit in rooms and hear from candidates who are being funded by these folk, that's not the conversation. It's not about, it doesn't matter what you call a school. It's about tearing down schools pre-Katrina, which we're tired of hearing about. It's 20 years into this. Okay. Let's talk about this. Or it's about how well the charters are doing and 100% graduation rate and all of these little talking points. But then when you ask them follow-up questions, it's almost like they ran out of talking points, so they have nothing else to say.
Let me go one step further. Having been a candidate, as you go around, and people always say that you knock on as many doors as you can, go out and you can meet the people, and you can hear exactly what they're saying and what they want. I think that when you go and knock on doors and you begin to have those conversations and you talk about it, I think you find that a sizable portion of the city of New Orleans, a lot of voting populations, probably fall into the category of what both Donaldo Batiste said, well, one size does not fit all, and what she stated in the last sentence. Now, whether someone truly believes that, I don't know that. I don't know the candidates to the point I haven't asked them that, where they could actually say that one way or the other. But I do believe that that's the general sentiment of most individuals here in the city of New Orleans. So if you're knocking on doors and you're hearing that seems to be what folks really want, then you might tend to change your message to make sure that it's in line with what seems to be what folks want and would draw them to the polls and potentially vote for you when it's time to do that.
Well, Dr. Donaldo Batiste began his career as a math teacher in Terrebonne Parish and had stints as a principal of John McDonald Senior High School in New Orleans, an administrator in the district central office, and superintendent of a school district near Chicago. So we read her little profile earlier. I'm going to read his little profile now, but he is the incumbent in that seat. So he ran and he was appointed in 2022 to fill the vacant 4th District School Board seat. He ran unopposed in a subsequent special election. The District 4 seat represents Algiers and parts of the Marigny, Bywater, and French Quarter. We have a call on line 1. Good morning, Miss Alicia. How are you?
Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm so sick of this stuff about the education in Orleans Parish. As I've said, education in Orleans Parish ain't got nothing to do with learning. It's about the dollars. Leslie Rosenthal Jacobs is still running this situation where she desired 100% charter schools in Orleans Parish. You go next door to the parish, St. Bernard. They don't have charter schools. And the superintendent was sitting on Bessie at the time when they had a meeting here in New Orleans at Everson. And they kept pushing the charter. They were so good. And I asked that superintendent who was sitting on Bessie, if they're so good, why you made a mandate that you will not have charters in your district, in your school parish, in the parish. There are none. And the fact that you have Leslie Rosenthal Jacobs, who is the queen, the mafia queen. You have her brother and the rest of her family, Stephen Rosenthal, who's making gazillions of dollars with the KIPP organization on the back of our children. Our school system is segregated. You have a school district, all the white children going to the better schools. How that don't have education. We don't even have qualified, university educated educators. The majority in the school. So our children are dying, and the reason I keep saying that because of the lack of education. And education is a major problem in increased crime. You have Leslie Rosenthal Jacobs candidates, Miss Griffin against Dr. Batiste, and you have Chan Tucker, the Entergy executive. Y'all don't like paying the Entergy bills, and he's running it. What you think he's going to do with our school system? And Chan is running against Doc Jones, Eric Jones, who is an educator. We need educators in our schools, in our school system, on our school board. And if they're not about the education of our children, they need to be off. So my pick is Eric Jones for District 2 and also Dr. Batiste, because they are educators. And that's what we need on our school board. I'm sick of our children dying in the streets and not being educated. They got the ballet dancer in front of them. She don't know anything about teaching, but they're standing in front of our children. And we have to wonder why Johnny can't read. I'm sick of it. I hope everybody are listening to what's going on. Everything that's being said is absolutely the truth. And we need to vote for our children, not Leslie Rosenthal Jacobs. I'll hang up here. Have a good day.
Thank you, Miss Alicia. Listen, I mean, I welcome anybody who believes in unseating folk who have proved, that they are in it in the best interest of children. When Dr. Donaldo Batiste, got the seat on the board, mm-hmm. there were few people willing to publicly say they supported a transition to district-run schools. Very few people. And if they were saying it, they weren't saying it publicly.
Correct.
Very few people before Dr. Donaldo Batiste got there, because even he, was instrumental in making certain that the tide turned for a couple other members on the school board, who, listen, if you want to call in, the number here is 504-582-9422.
Wake up, New Orleans.
That also includes Leslie Rosenthal Jacobs, since she was name dropped here on the WBOK 1230 AM. She can call too. And we can ask her why, what is the importance? Why is it so important for you to control, the educational outcomes for children here in the city? I want to know that, because that's a lot of money being funded, a lot of money coming in from out of state, a lot of money being put into the mailbox, put on the airwaves. That's a lot of money for a district school board race. And one has to think you're putting all of this money in it because you have to believe that the return on the investments has to outweigh what you're investing. So what is it? What's in it for her? Why do you want, such ownership of our children and their education? Like, why? What is that? What is it doing for you actually? And haven't you gotten enough? Y'all had y'all hands all over the insurance business early on. That was happening when I was in school. So, how much more do you need to take from an already impoverished community of children? Now you want to take their minds. I just don't understand how there's not an uproar against this. It really feels kind of mob-like to be like, I just want to control everything. Like, I want to be able to tell you what to do over here and what to do over there. What is it for her is my question. Why?
Part of the issue, and like I said, I became a father a little bit later than a lot of my classmates at McDonald 35. And so most of them, their children are now out of school. And so now you have their grandchildren that are coming through. And so now when I take a look at what schools are accessible, which schools we can look at, and the option, that was a very, very real concern. Trying to decide, and when we make mention of it, the two things that you actually hear about, and it should really be common sense, and that being that we want more quality seats for every kid in the city of New Orleans. And whatever allows us to have that is something that we should be replicating and moving forward with that. As we make mention, and we talk about schools and money and contracts, that's a real concern. That's a part of what we're looking at. When I talk to educators who are friends of mine, be they principals, school leaders, or whatever the case may be, I've had a situation whereby I've seen the educators talk about, well, look, this is what we need to try and move forward to actually get this done. But we're never going to have a situation whereby kids can move forward and their parents can move forward and feel satisfied in the education that they are receiving until we get on the same page about what it takes to make a school district, what it takes to make a school move forward and provide quality education for all the kids in the city of New Orleans.
Listen, so in the District 2 race, Gabriella Biro, Eric Doc Jones, and Chan Tucker are vying for the 2nd District seat, which represents Gentilly, New Orleans East, and an Upper Ninth Ward. It is currently held by board member Ethan Ashley, who is not seeking re-election. Jones began his career as a teacher in New Orleans and had stints as a band director before spending nearly 2 decades as a director at Teach for America, recruiting teachers and training them in cultural competency. He has also served on the New Orleans East Matters Downtown Development District Board and the Industrial Development Board. In 2019, he resigned from his position on the now defunct Mary D. Coghill Schools Board following allegations that he had advised teachers not to fail any students. In an interview, Jones called the allegations baseless. Jones said he supports successful charter schools but will push the district to take over struggling schools. He said he hoped district-run schools would initiate a return of neighborhood schools, drawing mostly students from the nearby community. Leah Chase is the pathway to a neighborhood school, he said. Jones has the endorsement of the Orleans Parish Democratic Executive Committee and the Independent Women's Organization and other local groups. Gabriella Biro, a professional hairdresser with a background in community organizing, says she was inspired to run after hearing client stories about flaws in the education system and seeing recent conservative state legislation, including a bill requiring public schools to post the 10 Commandments. She has long been involved in political activism. As a child, she accompanied her mother, who was a public school teacher, to union meetings, and as an adult, she participated in Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter protests. Bureau says she supported the district running more schools, but will wait for community input on whether residents want a fully district-run system. I want to be the voice for the people, she said. I feel like too many people in New Orleans politics are beholden to corporate interests or the political machine, and I want to see that change. She has been endorsed by the United Teachers of New Orleans, a union that supports local teachers and school employees. Chan Tucker is an Entergy executive who has amassed thousands more in donations than any other school board candidate. If elected, he said he will focus on recruiting quality teachers to the district, improving parents' understanding of the enrollment system, and enabling charter schools to share best practices and collaborate more closely. He currently serves on the board of Audubon Gentili, a Montessori-based charter school, and has 2 sons who attend the school. Tucker said his experience balancing a $1.5 billion budget and managing hundreds of employees and contractors will give him an engineer's perspective to cutting costs at the district level. But to Ms. Alicia's point, we want academic perspectives. We want educators. Like, it's all good to have like a business mind for things because, you know, part of this is business. But at the end of the day, the political football that they keep tossing around is the children. You are using children to like further create divisiveness between parents and teachers and schools and other schools, you know, charter versus traditional, all of this stuff, when at the end of the day, everybody seems to try to say the same thing, but your interests are backed by something different. You're saying you want quality schools. You're saying you want all of these things that make schools great, but then you take money from people who don't believe in quality schools for all children. Because if you did, you wouldn't have a have and have not sort of system set up here. You wouldn't have schools that could cherry pick their children and then wave a banner of success versus schools who have to take what is given to them or take where you're funneling them, and then they have to just do the best they can with what shows up, right? So the playing field is not even. So if you're going to say that you want quality education and quality schools for all children, then it has to kind of translate into where you're getting your funding from. Because everybody here knows who funds you is who controls the narrative. Like, let's just be honest here. We're not going to pretend like people who are donating all of these massive money to you won't have a say in the policies that you say you're going to sign your name to. Come on now, you're beholden to your funders. And I'm asking you to be beholden to the community and the families and the children and do what is best for children. Run on a platform that is pro-children. And everybody deserves a quality seat and a quality school with quality people in front of them. We're going to talk more about this, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We talking all things ballot talk this morning, trying to make certain that you are informed about not only what's on your ballot, but who's on your ballot. Stay with us. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Today is a first warning weather impact day. We're under a red flag warning due to extremely low humidity and gusty winds. This means fire can spread easily if one is sparked. Expect wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour with highs only in the upper 60s and low 70s. We'll see sunshine. Overnight temperatures fall to the 40s and 50s. More sunshine expected for the rest of the week. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up Oscar!
Do you have both Medicare and Medicaid? With the People's Health Medicare Advantage Plan, you could get up to $280 per month to spend on utilities, healthy groceries, and over-the-counter items. $280 per month. Don't miss out on these extra benefits. Call 1-844-663-2135. Plans are insured through United Healthcare Insurance Company or one of its affiliated companies, a Medicare Advantage organization with a Medicare contract and a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in the plan depends on the plan's contract renewal with Medicare.
Keep up with NOLA Public Schools through Education Elevation. Join Superintendent Dr. Avis Williams monthly as she shares district updates, celebrates schools, scholars, and more. Tune in every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m.
Greetings, WBOK family. This is Jason Clark, host of United Way and You. Be sure to tune in next Thursday at 12 p.m. when we'll be speaking with Melanie Richardson, co-founder and executive director of Training Grounds, a United Way funded partner. The topic will be the We Play, We Connect Family Resource Hub. Please tune in if you're able. Until then, we only have one life to live, so live united.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Hello, this is State Senator Joe Bowie. On November 5th, we have a historic school board election in our District 2, and I am seeking your support for Dr. Eric Doc Jones. Dr. Jones is a native New Orleanian and the only educator in the District 2 race. He is committed to our children and has the courage to ensure our children and community have a quality public education system. Please join me and vote Dr. Eric Doc Jones, Orleans Parish School Board District 2. He's number 12 on the ballot.
This is Eric Doc Jones, and I approve this message.
Hello, WBOK listening audience. This is Pastor Robert Tanner of the Community Church of River Ridge, Louisiana, inviting you to tune in to our Sunday morning broadcast at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning right here on WBOK 1230 AM. That's Community Church with Pastor Robert Tanner every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on WBOK 1230.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. My co-host in studio this morning is
State Senator Wesley Bishop.
And Nyron is behind the glass holding us all together. We have been talking about just ballot talk, all of the things that are on your ballot this morning. We were talking extensively about the District 2 and District 4 school board races. We're imploring you to look into the candidates and vote for the candidate who has the best interest of not only your community, but your children and your family's interests at the forefront. So when you go to the voting, go in the voting booth, please make certain that you are informed. Look up the candidates and what they're asking you to vote for. So in addition to the District 2 and District 4 school board races, in addition to the presidential races, your ballot also includes your U.S. representative for the 2nd Congressional District. That is the seat currently being held by Congressman Troy Carter. You also have some constitutional amendment and some parish-wide amendments on your ballot. Let's talk about the constitutional amendment and what it means if you vote yes or no.
Yes, listen to ordinance. The statewide constitutional amendment is referred to as constitutional amendment number 1. And what it simply does is it provides relative to federal proceeds from alternative energy production. And the way it's going to read on your ballot will read, do you support an amendment to require that federal revenues received by the state generated from outer continental shelf alternative or renewable energy production be deposited into the Coastal Protection and Restoration Fund? That's a lot of words, but basically what it does is that you'll be asked to vote either yes or no. And what the explanation that we have here, and it's provided by Jeff Thomas from Think 504. Shout out to Jeff and Think 504 for all that you do. He's always trying to educate our populace. The explanation is this. Amendment 1 lets Louisiana decide how to use money from offshore wind and solar energy production. Voters must choose whether to dedicate the funds to coastal protection or allow lawmakers to spend it on other projects. So a yes vote would direct future revenue from offshore renewable energy into a fund for coastal protection. The money will pay for projects like building levees and restoring wetlands to protect the coast from erosion, flooding, and hurricane. Louisiana's coastal areas are crucial to the economy and safety. So a yes vote ensures they receive funding. Now, a no vote allows that money to be used for other state priorities such as roads, schools, or healthcare. Voting no gives lawmakers more freedom to address needs across the state. So once again, a yes vote on Amendment 1 of the statewide constitution directs future revenue from offshore renewable energy into a fund for coastal protection. A no vote allows that same money to be used for other state priorities such as roads, schools, and healthcare. Voting no gives lawmakers more freedom to address needs across the state. Doc?
So in addition to your constitutional amendment in your congressional race and your school board races and the presidential race, you also have 2 city charter changes. The first one is a parish-wide HRC amendment number 1 of 2. It amends the
city charter.
The home rule charter of the city of New Orleans be amended to establish a housing trust fund dedicated exclusively to ensuring the availability of affordable housing within the city and to require an annual appropriation of at least 2% of the city's annual general fund to the housing trust as provided in ordinance number 29828. So what does it mean? According to Black Source Media, the proposal would amend the city charter requiring at least 2% of the general fund to go to a housing trust fund. The fund aims to address the city's ongoing housing crisis, which disproportionately impacts African Americans. While this seems like progress, voters must consider the long-term consequences. A yes vote locks in affordable housing funding, ensuring a steady financial stream for future projects. A no vote allows the council to maintain yearly flexibility when allocating the funding. Voters need to weigh those options carefully. A yes vote guarantees long-term housing funds but limits the city's budget flexibility. A no vote keeps the city's options open but relies on future council decisions to fund affordable housing. The choice is yours. On the parish-wide H.R. 2 Amendment number 2, it is a home rule charter of New Orleans to be amended to include rights for workers as described in ordinance number 29864 among the rights contained in the Municipal Bill of Rights. According to Black Source Media, the Workers' Bill of Rights says that everyone deserves equality, fair wages, health care, and paid leave. We all believe that, but this is a non-bidding proposition. The government cannot force businesses to do more than the minimum. Minimum wage? The city cannot increase the minimum wage. Fair wages? Okay, I'm not against that. Same for health care and paid leave. But this is only about symbolism. The language asserts that change is non-binding. Nonetheless, the Workers' Bill of Rights is up for a vote. And here's what your vote choice means. A yes vote supports the city council's symbolic statement in favor of fair wages, health care, and paid leave for all workers. A no vote rejects the symbolic bill, leaving no formal declaration by the city in support of these worker protections. It keeps the current policies unchanged. Your vote helps shape how New Orleans supports its workforce. Voting is one of the most powerful ways you can shape the future of New Orleans. Every vote counts, whether it's about funding, coastal protection, addressing housing needs, or making changes to how our city supports people who work here. By casting your ballot, you have a direct say in how resources are spent and how decisions are made. This election impacts our community, your family, and your future. Make sure your voice is heard. Get out and vote for the change you want to see in New Orleans. Shout out to Black Source Media. We tried to break down your ballot very quickly. There was a constitutional amendment that the senator broke down for you, thanks to Black Source Media, and 2 parish-wide amendments are also on the ballot. So please do not forget, you are not simply voting for the president. You're not simply voting for your congressman. You're also voting for school board races, constitutional amendments, and parish-wide amendments. So if you want to take a look at your ballot, please go to the Louisiana Secretary of State, put in your little personal information, and pull up your sample ballot. Practice it at home. Go over it so that when you go in the booth, you are not only informed, but you're prepared. You do not have to wait until election day to read what is on your ballot. So you're not in there like, what does that mean? I don't even know. Go and look at your sample ballot on the Louisiana Secretary of State's website. Get to know your candidates. Get to know about those constitutional amendments. Get to know about the amendments that are on your parish-wide amendments that are also on your ballot. We are going to go to break, but when we come back, we are going to talk to Ghassan Corbin, the executive director of the Sewage and Water Board, at the 8:20 hour. Stay with us. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Jamie Foxx returned to the stage in Atlanta for the first time in 18 years, sharing his joy on social media. He described the performance as an artistic explanation of his experiences following a medical complication in April 2023, which left him unconscious for 20 days. The retrial of 2 white Mississippi men accused of shooting at a black FedEx driver in Brookhaven is set for spring 2025. The first trial ended in a mistrial after a police investigator withheld evidence. The driver, DeMontario Gibson, was later fired by FedEx during the investigation. FEMA is pausing aid in parts of North Carolina for Hurricane Helene recovery due to threats against emergency personnel. FEMA locations in Ash will remain open as they assess the situation. During his performance at Radio City Music Hall, Barry Manilow encouraged the audience to get out and vote. The 81-year-old Brooklyn native joked, quote, "Maybe I'll run for mayor. I hear there may be an opening," end quote, prompting laughter from the crowd. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Join New Schools for New Orleans, Allstate Sugar Bowl, and Entergy New Orleans in recognizing and celebrating the Teachers of the Year at our 3rd annual New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Awards, Noetta Gala. The gala will take place Saturday, November 2nd at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. This year's gala will feature Grammy-nominated Tank and the Bangers. Don't miss out on this intimate celebration supporting our New Orleans public school teachers. Tickets can be purchased on our website, newschoolsforneworleans.org.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
And we are back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. My co-host in studio this morning is
Senator Wesley Bishop.
Wesley Bishop, and Naren is behind that glass holding us down. We try to give you guys a rundown of what is on your ballot. We're going to do our best to always inform you about what your votes mean, what implications your votes have. And so if you have questions about your ballot, the number here is 504-582-9422. We have a call on line 1. Good morning, Ms. Matthews. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. White and Senator Bishop. And
Good morning.
Okay, I was calling in because I heard Dr. Batiste speaking, and I just wanted to personally vouch for him My daughter attended Claiborne School. My daughter, my nieces, my nephews, it was like the family school when he was the principal there. And I can assure anybody, they received a world-class education at that school. So I know that he is definitely hands-on and he's definitely concerned about children's education. So I definitely will support him for the school board. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Have a wonderful day. Listen, if you want to call in and talk about what's on your ballot or even speak to your experiences with either of the candidates who are on the ballot so that we can better inform our WBOK listening audience, the number here is 504-582-9422. So before we went to break, we were trying to go through what the explanation of the constitutional amendments and the parish-wide amendments, thanks to Black Source Media, and they did a wonderful job of breaking down what your votes mean. Also, with the explanation of what the jargon is on there, because that's a lot of heavy talk on the ballot. Yeah. But Black Source Media broke it down in layman's terms for you, giving you not only the explanation, but what your yes vote means, what your no vote means. And so, if you want to look that up, you can look that up. The name of the article is New Orleans Ballot Options Explained. It is on Black Source Media, think 504. So look it up, read it, be intimate with it. I want you to be informed when you go into the booth to vote. We also said that there is opposition for Congressman Troy Carter's seat.
Correct.
The U.S. Representative, 2nd Congressional seat. He actually has 4 challengers. Devin Davis, he's running as a Democrat. Devin Lance Graham, Republican. Christy Lynch, Republican. And Chandra Perlew, Republican. So there are 5 people, including the incumbent, vying for the 2nd Congressional District seat currently held by Congressman Troy A. Carter Sr. So please make certain that you pull up your sample ballot. Understand who the people who are vying for your vote, understand what platforms they have. You still have time to start Googling them. Mm-hmm. If you have not gotten your questions answered, there are a number of articles out on various candidates that you can read into. But we are 20 days away from election and only 2 days away from early voting. So the time to be informed is now.
And Doc, let me just go one step further. I know we had a chance to sit and explain the ballot amendments, the proposed constitutional charter changes and city charter change. And I think that's extremely important. I can't tell you the number of times that I get calls, usually 2 or 3 days before the election, say, hey, I understand there. And most of the times, there's a slew of constitutional amendments or proposed charter changes that are actually there. And people are simply trying to understand. You simply just don't have the time when you walk into the ballot booth to try and understand and diagnose this if you look at it for the very first time. So once again, I want to definitely thank Jeff Thomas for putting this out there. But for all of those individuals, and I know I'm not the only one, I know Doc is not the only one, there are friends and family who call you on a regular basis to get assistance and guidance on what they should be looking for. So let's make sure we read this. We want to inform ourselves so that when those calls do come, we can let folks know so they can go into the ballot box, know what's going on, and cast an educated vote as to what they think is in the best interest of not just the city of New Orleans, but of the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, listen, I, speaking of like elections that have consequences, I was listening to Gerard's show yesterday. Did you hear Gerard? He was interviewing Governor Landry. I believe he called in. It sounded like it was a phone call. I don't know if he was in studio, but I was listening, so I didn't see it. But he said some things, and Gerard asked some questions because I don't think the phone lines were allowing for questions like real time. So I think Gerard had a list of questions he was asking him, and he asked him stuff relative to the consent decree.
Okay,
and he asked him about this initiative to unveil juvenile identities and records, and that was an initiative he started as the Attorney General.
Okay,
I can remember because we were both in the same article. They interviewed him one day, and they interviewed me the same day, and we were talking about his focus of trying to pilot some sort of crime initiative where you target the youth from New Orleans, the youth from East Baton Rouge Parish, and the youth from Caddo Parish, which is Shreveport.
Correct.
And so
Three majority black cities.
He was absolutely. And so Gerard asked him the question about targeting those areas, and he tried to say that he wasn't targeting them for the initiative itself. He targeted those communities to pilot something. But I wish the push would have been further to say that if you want to like target something, even to pilot it, your sample matters. The population that you're sampling matters, and what your sample says, without saying it, is that you believe that these are the areas that you need to focus on because you're assuming or you're stating that this is where the crime is, and it's, you know, exclusive or synonymous with these communities. And that was my pushback, because we're not going to act as if crime is exclusive to or synonymous with Black children or Black communities. Crime is committed by people of all ethnic makeups and things of that nature. And I'm sure if you did some digging, you'll find some numbers that would mirror New Orleans or East Baton Rouge Parish or Caddo Parish and other non-predominantly Black communities. So if you really want to do a real sample, then you can't just, you know, acting as though it's random, because it's not. You handpick those particular communities to do that pilot on, in terms of wanting to like unseal juvenile records. And then he said it was for specific crimes. And that's why, you know, they targeted those communities. But, you know, I think language matters. I think words matter. And when you start to act as if, you know, you're fighting crime by only looking at certain communities, then you paint the narrative that crime is only happening in these communities. I think school shootings ought to be labeled domestic terrorism. That's what I think. That's my personal opinion. Because if you label them as domestic terrorism, then you will handle them like terrorism. But because you continue to act as if it's not an issue, you know, because I think that's a larger issue that, you know, if you want to talk about data sets and piloting things, that's a larger, not just state issue, but that's an issue for the country. There are school shootings happening all over the country. And if you want to talk about, you know, how to address certain real issues and real crimes, then you have to actually have a real sample set. And so I had an issue with, you know, him being able to just kind of say, no, I didn't target those areas. We were just trying to pilot, you know, this initiative. But you targeted those areas. You were specifically saying that we're going to look at New Orleans for a specific reason, East Baton Rouge for a specific reason, and Caddo Parish for a specific reason, right? And on the outside looking in, I can only tell you that the unifying factor in those three communities is there's a high population of Black youth. Right? That's just on the looking at it on the surface. So you can't escape that. It's not like you threw in 2 or 3 other parishes where the population wasn't all the way Black, but the crime was high. You didn't do that. That would give you a better randomized sampling if you ask me, but you're not asking me. But
I remember when that bill came up. Yeah, and I know the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus actually had a lot of pushback on that for the reasons that you're actually speaking of. The individuals who represented those 3 metropolitan areas, like, look, what is it about these areas that you've decided? And it wasn't just a matter of something that he actually did. You actually had the current Attorney General, Liz Murrow.
Well, they worked that their tag team.
That was his deputy.
Yes.
That was his deputy. So that she pushed that, and of course, got a great deal of individuals who are part of the Republican delegation also be a part of that. But going one step further, to focus on the city of New Orleans, most individuals, the leadership of this city, regardless of whether or not your business, whether or not your political education, whatever the case may be, one of the very first things that Governor Landry seemed to do, and the general perception by most is that there was a laser-like focus on all things New Orleans.
Well, he said that on Gerard's show, that he is focused on getting the city, you know, safe.
New Orleans in line,
You know, and they talked about Troop NOLA and how Troop NOLA operates outside of the consent decree, and he was talking about how detrimental the consent decree is to the New Orleans Police Department doing its job. But if you're from New Orleans, like I'm from New Orleans, you know why the consent decree even came into play.
Yeah.
And so we can't forget, why that necessarily had to happen. But when I hear people, trying to paint this narrative like the New Orleans is so, destitute and damaged and dangerous, but you're flocking here. So there has to be something, something is, I just don't get it. Like on the one hand, you want to make it seem like we can't govern ourselves. It's so terrible. It's so dangerous. And then on the other hand, you can't stop the people from caravanning to New Orleans, buying up the property and making themselves at home. We have a call on line 1. Good morning, Miss Denise. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great.
Good morning, Denise.
Good morning. What's your name again?
Senator Bishop.
Senator Bishop. And this is Kimber?
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
I'm asking the young lady.
I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt.
Dr. Wyatt.
Yes, ma'am.
I am listening because I hear we're talking about our children. Oh, this is so good. I'm gonna have a good morning after this. I'm calling because Bishop, first of all, I met you some years ago in the Desire community with the Agriculture Street Landfill class action lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
And you spoke with a young man out there. His name was Joshua. Joshua he was a child that attended Moton School with all the other children that attended Moton School. I might jump around a little bit here because I have so much I need to say on this topic.
You said Moton School? You said Moton School? Okay.
Yes, Moton School back in Press Park were the homeowners and the landfill, the toxic land that people are still living on.
Yes, ma'am.
And you spoke to us that day, and we kind of took you at your word. We know you weren't the top person. We can't never speak with the CEOs and all the guys at the top. But you listened, and he appreciated that because you took time out of your busy schedule as a senator to come and speak with that community. And from my point of view, today is October, what is it?
The 16th?
Today's the 16th, 2 days before early voting.
The 16th, 2024. And my family, my friends, and my community are still there. Now, the reasoning, our children are not bad. They have this thing on WBOK called bad kids. These kids are not bad. These kids have been contaminated, affected, injected with everything from the powder milk, the toxic landfill. They're not bad. Our children are being targeted. They're being targeted. All these little children in the city of New Orleans, we're not from nowhere else. We're from right here in New Orleans. Those children that's being killed, shot, stabbed, hit by a car, burned in fire, most of these people are my family and friends right out of this Desire community. And I say Desire community because that's where I'm from. Magnolia, St. Thomas, Iberville, all of the projects. Where we are, this is what we deal with. This is what we've lived with. A lot of us are going to die. A lot of us are going to die. If it's not getting stabbed, shot, or hit by a car. But these are all the people that's involved in this class action lawsuit. Now, you have blinders on. If you have blinders on, it's because you want to wear them. Because you know what it is you don't want to see. These children are not bad. Our children are very smart.
They are, Miss Denise. And look, we could talk about our kids all day. We have a number of callers on the line, but I want to make certain that you have an opportunity to get your final thoughts in before I have to take another call, Miss Denise. So is there anything you want to leave our listening audience with?
Yes, I do. Our children are not just children. They're growing up, so they are now the ones that's going to be voting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we need to get our children, get together, make them know how to vote, and put them there so their vote counts.
Absolutely, Ms. Denise. Thank you so much for your call.
Have a good one.
You too. Good morning, Reverend Calhoun. How are you?
I'm doing well, and how are you?
I'm great.
Good morning, Doc.
And Senator,
when the pilot program policies were crafted, was anyone from Baton Rouge, Shreveport, or New Orleans included? Were we even involved in the policy of how the pilot was going to work? Was the pilot then determined to include the economics of the area? Because he also has a plan to take that over. So when these folks come into our community to tell us that they're here to help, what my experience has been, they come in and tell us, look, we know what to do, so this is why we come and do it. And we're going to take it over and show y'all how to do it. And then once the money run out, when there's no more benefit or profit in it, they get up and leave.
Yes.
So when I listen at Mr. Landry with his rhetoric, telling you that he's coming here to help you, what is his real intention? To me, I think he's looking for another political step and going probably to go, if Crazy Man was elected, that he wanted to go into that administration. So I don't trust anything Mr. Landry says. Nothing.
Well, I don't think you're alone. I don't think
that-
you're alone in that sentiment, Reverend Calhoun.
Well, he has demonstrated, even as Attorney General, that he's not for real people. To me, politics is about power.
Yes.
He's coming in here to take away the power of the people, just like Mr. 45 or whatever y'all want to call Crazy Man. But they're not coming here to help you. And I don't understand, and I don't get it in terms of people that's cutting off their nose to spite their face. People don't mean you no good. Now, why you can't wake up and see that, I don't know. But you cannot demonstrate anything that Jeff Landry can point to that really has come in to help minority people, be it his policies on offshore or environmental issues in communities. The St. James, I think he even tried to make sure, set legislation to say that environmentally, you don't have no right because of putting these pollution companies in your community. You don't have a right to bring that to court anymore. So I don't see what's happening with Mr. Landry's policies that leave when the policies are being crafted that you don't have any representation at the table.
Absolutely.
So,
look, the phone lines are lit up, Reverend Calhoun.
Yeah,
and you know
I'm
we always
done.
appreciate
I'm
your
done.
insight. Thank you so much. Good morning, Dr. Jones. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm great.
Good
and you?
morning, Doc.
Good morning. What's going on? Good morning.
No, ain't nothing much going on, but welcome to the Good Morning Show. What you got for us this morning?
I was listening to the radio spot. You guys were talking about the election, and I just wanted to just add my 100% of my 2 cents in terms of the election, in terms of why important this race is right now as it relates to control versus change. And I think that's what I haven't heard in terms of why these individuals, including those who have invested interests or special interests, in terms of why they want to continue to control what we're doing to a system that has been proven to be successful, but has given a negative narrative as it relates to what they want the public perception to believe. If we want to change this, we have to remove the control. Those special interest groups that need to remove themselves out of this formula and allow this district that has capabilities and giving them the resources that they need, or providing them the resources they need, and all of these neighborhood schools as it relates to community schools that they continue to talk about, Dr. White, community schools, when we need to be talking about neighborhood schools, but give them the resources. We have the platform now. We have Leah Chase as the first neighborhood school. I'm not going to talk about direct run. I'm going to talk about neighborhood school. We have one neighborhood school now, which is a platform, but yet they're putting false narrative out right now, identifying or saying that this was the worst mistake that we're making to bring a direct run school, because they want to paint that narrative. So what I'm saying, if we can remove that control, and we know those special interest groups, I'll call them out. I'm not afraid to call them out. The Leslie Jacobs of the world, the Ed Reforms of the world, the DEFAs of the world, these national organizations that want to come in and impact our schools or our district or our neighborhood and our communities. We have to stop that. We have to stop that.
Well, we absolutely do, and we definitely appreciate you calling in. What district are you vying to represent, and what is your ballot number?
My ballot number is number 12. I'm running for District 2, which is in New Orleans East, which is the Upper Nine, which has Gentilly, Pontchartrain, and so I'm definitely is the candidate that will change and remove control. Remove control because I'm trying to hurry up. I apologize for that because I know y'all got a lot that y'all want to put people on the line. So, but yes, my name is Dr. Eric Jones. I'm a 12 on the ballot, and this is about change. And I know Dr. Baptiste and I will bring that resource, that resource that's needed to do that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. We appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
Let me say one more thing, Dr. White. Let's think about these babies.
Absolutely.
Who they transport in their transportation every day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Listen, if you want to call in to talk about what's on your ballot or any of the opportunities that you, or any of the concerns that you've heard thus far, the number here is 504-582-9422. After the break, we will talk to Kassan Corbin, Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans. Please stay with us after the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Late nights are made for chillin', and you can do just that every Sunday night at 10 p.m. as DJ Wick brings you The Love Zone. It's the perfect way to top off your weekend with your favorite old and new school ballads. So sit back, relax, and let DJ Wick take you to the Love Zone on WBOK 1230 AM and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. Happening today, a former building inspector appears in federal court to enter a plea on bribery charges. Prosecutors allege Randy Farrell accepted bribes to let unlicensed electricians work on hundreds of New Orleans homes. Prosecutors also allege Farrell bought Mayor LaToya Cantrell expensive gifts, and that the city's chief administrative officer, Gilbert Montano, asked Farrell's associate to give him expensive football tickets. Both Cantrell and Montano say they did nothing wrong. Farrell will appear before a federal magistrate judge today at 2 p.m. New Orleans detectives continue to investigate into how one man ended up dead inside a home in St. Roch on Monday. Residents were shocked to hear someone in their community was killed. Neighbors believe this stemmed from a robbery, but hope to get answers soon. Police have not identified the victim or any possible suspects in this homicide investigation. But if you know anything that can help police, you're asked to contact Crime Stoppers. And the city of New Orleans adding one more event to a jam-packed February calendar. We've got the Super Bowl, Mardi Gras, and now an epic crossover of the two, a carnival-style Super Bowl parade. The plan is for revelers and the NFL to parade on the French Quarter and through the CBD, throwing NFL-themed beads aboard current floats. And of course, your favorite marching bands will step into the rhythm and brass we all know and love. WDSU is the official broadcast partner of the New Orleans Super Bowl Host Committee Parade. I'm Daryl Forges, and that's your headlines for WBOK.
NOLA Public Schools is excited to be on this 2024-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars. Attend today, achieve tomorrow.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month, a service of the community scientist and Rise St. James. This month, we're focusing on lead, a heavy metal that's dense, soft, and poses serious health risks. In Cancer Alley, lead exposure from industrial emissions or contaminated soil can significantly increase cancer risks and other health problems. Stay informed and protect your health. For more information, visit risestjames.org.
Hi, it's Dr. Shepard with Your Medical Minute.
Let's discuss one harmful ingredient in many hair products, formaldehyde. This colorless gas is a known carcinogen found in hundreds of hair care products disproportionately used by Black women, such as Brazilian blowouts and keratin treatments. It increases the risk of cancers such as uterine, breast, ovarian, and of the upper respiratory tract. It's linked to allergic dermatitis, headaches, asthma, and nervous system disorders. The chemical has many names and derivatives, and even products that do not have formaldehyde may release it, such as methylene glycol or formalin. Risks are increased with long-term exposure. Lawsuits have been filed against prominent companies and manufacturers like L'Oreal, Revlon, Sally Beauty, Soft Sheen, and Avalon. In June, there were 8,170 hair straightener lawsuit filings. The FDA has been considering a ban on formaldehyde, but is consistently pushing back the timeline to reach a decision. You can call the FDA and support the ban or submit a public comment. For more information about safe beauty products, call me at 504-858-4696.
This has been a Medical Minute with Dr. Cassandra Shepard on WBOK 1230 AM.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. We are back. Wake up, New Orleans.
Wake
Welcome
up,
back
wake
to the
up.
Good Morning Show. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. My co-host in studio with me this morning is none other than
Senator Wesley Bishop.
And listen, our guest right now is none other than Ghassan Corbin, Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How
Good
are
morning.
you?
Thanks for having me.
So I'm just going to do our little daily check-in with all of our guests. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Feeling good?
Positive. A little anxious about all the politics and all the elections at the national level. But
Yeah. But other than that, it's all good.
I'm good.
So listen, we're gonna open up with the senator opening question.
Absolutely.
The specific reason why you came on here on today is to talk about an exciting partnership that is now present. We understand that Veolia and New Orleans launched the first innovative digital control center to transform wastewater treatment in the United States of America. Can you touch on that and tell us what that's about and how that's going to affect the citizens of New Orleans?
Absolutely. So again, thanks for being on the show here. And part of our mission about 5 years or so ago is we set out to do a strategy, a strategic plan for the utility, and we identified six priorities. One of them was automation. We know that automation is very critical for any operations, certainly for the Sewage and Water Board in terms of how we serve our community. And about 2 years ago or so, Veolia, who does they operate our waste treatment plants both on the East Bank and the West Bank, they came to us with a fairly new idea that had been implemented in Europe. And they said that we want to automate the way we process wastewater at the treatment plant by it's called Hubgrade, and it's a automation process, basically monitoring the quality of the water through the process itself in the system, monitoring the water quality and automating the amount of chemicals we need to insert or inject in the wastewater in order to make it acceptable and meet thresholds before we actually return it back to nature. Okay. So it's rather than having a manual and a continuous monitoring that takes time, takes a lot of paperwork and slow to react, this will allow us to be nimble, be responsive in real time, and at the end of the day, improve the quality of the water we're returning to nature at a much more cost-effective way. So it will cost our ratepayers less money, and obviously in terms of nature, more sustainable approach in terms of protecting nature and making sure that the water we return is safe and healthy.
So what are some of the biggest challenges currently facing urban water and waste systems in the United States? Like, what do you see as some of those challenges?
Well, one of our biggest nationwide challenges is the what we call the forever chemicals or PFAS. These are chemicals that are made, man-made, and they are enter our lives in more ways than one. And what we end up doing, obviously, we're in the process of monitoring, testing for the levels of those emerging contaminants, and find a way to capture those before, again, we return them to nature, but also capture them before they make their way to your faucet. So this is the beginning of a national phenomenon that is, all our utilities across the nation are facing and trying to understand what PFAS means to us in terms of the dangers, as well as how to capture it and remove it from our daily consumption.
You touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to, I guess, specifically ask you, as far as the citizens of New Orleans, this partnership that we actually see, how would it affect and what improvements will we see as far as the infrastructure is concerned, dealing both the reliability and the resiliency that'll be achieved through this partnership with Veolia?
Yeah, so again, it will improve the quality of the process itself. It's going to cost less money, so that obviously we're going to have less demand on ratepayers to increase revenue to do the same processes. So this will end up saving us money. And the partnership with Veolia brought us this whole technology at no cost, because this is the first of its kind across the nation, which is awesome. Obviously, we want to be first in terms of automation. And because they want to pilot that, they offered it to us at no cost. So, there's that to be celebrated as well. But we can't just focus on one piece of improvement or automation we've done, because we're implementing automation across the entire utility. So you take, for example, power generation. We're currently using 100-year-old turbines. We have to boil water, create steam, to run the steam through a generator to make power, so we can drive our pumps when we need them, drainage pumps. Well, as you know, we are in the midst of building a brand new power complex that will take the place of all these old antiquated machinery, and we end up saving about 3/4 the cost. So we're going to spend 25% for the same amount of power that we need versus what we do now. So a year from now, when we have the the power complex fully commissioned and utilized, we're going to decommission the turbines, set them aside, and by doing that, we're going to save an enormous amount of money for the ratepayers.
So, with the recent 5-year agreement, what are the expected outcomes for water quality and environmental stability in New Orleans?
So, obviously, that's a top responsibility and obligation for us to deliver the safest water possible for our customers. So, we, as you know, there's the lead and copper rule, which is probably the biggest and most prominent rule that we are focusing on now in terms of how to treat water and how to deliver water that is lead-free. So lead and copper rule has existed for many years. There had been some improvements or revisions that were made a couple of years ago, and one of them was that obligates our utility as well as any utility across the nation to submit to its customers an inventory of all the lead lines that exist, or actually all the material that exists that serve each individual property. So we have done that last week. We've unveiled that inventory to tell you whether you have lead, you don't have galvanized pipe, you have copper, you have PVC, whatever the case may be. And subsequent to that is that we're obligated to set out a plan to remove all the lead lines from the ground. So that's one very, very critical initiative that we're going to take on. We're actually about to launch a small construction project focusing on schools and daycares. We have about 300 of those that we're going to focus on. We're going to excavate each location, make sure that if it's lead, we're going to obviously take the pipes out or replace them. If they're not lead, we will document it as it's not lead. So that's our main immediate focus. After that, we're going to start potholing in other locations to ascertain whether a service line that comes to your house is lead or not, document it, take it, excuse me, take it back to the model that we've created, that we've used to do the inventory, and continue to refine it so we can actually be more certain of where the lead is and where we can focus on, and so we can take the lead out.
So I heard you say automation a couple times, right? And we just went through, witnessed the longshoremen and the strike that they put on. And they've since come to some sort of temporary agreement. But in terms of Sewage and Water Board, will automation affect human capital at all in terms of real jobs, real people? Will the automation issue have any effect there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it does both. It does improve the quality of the product and the process that we do, but it also avails or brings more opportunities for our employees to upscale and upskill their level of employment. So what we're doing take for example the smart meter program. It's a must. We have to automate our meter reading, right, from manual to automation, which what we're doing now, and we're set out to do about 50% of our 140,000 by the end of this year. So what we're doing, we're taking our meter readers and making available to them opportunities to learn, become more technical, because these smart meters are more sophisticated. They're going to need some maintenance. So rather than going out to read a meter, you're going out to maintain a meter, make sure that it's calibrated, make sure it's reading appropriately, it's sending the. So though that same population is going to be more critical for us, and they're going to be obviously learn higher skills, and they're going to become compensated even more.
So the impact would be that they would get an opportunity to grow in skill level, because what they're doing, automation would do, so they'll learn to do something more or deeper, deeper in their craft. So
Absolutely.
that's good to hear, because I knew, like, when the longshoremen were striking, that was one of their issues. They were afraid that automation was going to replace
them, yes.
People actually having opportunities at jobs. And
Right,
so
right.
that's really, really good to hear. So for me, in terms of community engagement, what initiatives have you seen that have successfully raised awareness about ecological issues and climate change?
Well, in general, a utility like ours, we're here to serve our customers and our businesses, our visitors, and the one key ingredient to having a good customer service and meeting customers where they are is you have to engage them. You have to go to them and learn their issues. So we're out meeting with community organizations, our public, our customers, at any chance we have to meet with them. We're out there, whether we're invited or whether we organize an event like similar to a town hall meeting, where we would invite neighborhoods to talk about a project specific that is impacting them. We can talk about issues. For example, now with the lead service line replacement program, we're going to be out making sure everybody knows the impact of lead, the threat it poses, and what we need our customers to do to help us help them. Meaning, our goal is to replace the entire service lines, for example, from the main all the way to your entry point to your house, right? At our cost. We have funding from the EPA that allow us to replace the entire service line, both the public, which is from the meter to the main, as well as the portion from the meter to the house. At our cost, what we need you to do as a property owner is to allow us to go on your property to replace that lead line, remove it once and for all, remove the threat at no cost to you with minimal disruption, because it's going to be a couple hours worth of time or effort to just replace something that's existed there for years and remove the threat altogether. So we're hoping that we're going to get more yeses, as we start this initiative and we're out replacing lines. We're very, very anxious to hear as many yeses from the owners as we can.
Ghassan, we understand that this year, 2024, was one of the more active seasons as far as the hurricanes are concerned. Viola provided operational support during past natural disasters. Can you share some lessons learned from these experiences especially following Hurricane Katrina and Ida?
Absolutely. Well, first thing we do is we take the battle-tested staff members that we have. We have so many of them have been dedicated. They're dedicated, they're passionate, and they've been there many, many times. They know exactly, like they say, they know the drill. So they bring the not only the confidence to the room, but also they bring experiences of the do's and the don'ts. So obviously, ahead of any storm, any major event, we're sitting in a room, walking through every possible scenario. We're talking about what everyone's role is. Whether you're topping fuels of generators, whether it's parking specific cars or vehicles in certain spots, whatever the case may be, testing our generators, running the turbines. Everybody has a role, and everybody does it seamlessly with a lot of collaboration. So we look back and say what were things that we did that didn't work or we could have done better, and those are always, we have action after action sessions that we sit down and we talk and document of the do's and the don'ts, so as not to make the same mistakes, obviously, and repeat mistakes. And I feel like we've made a lot of great decisions ahead of last hurricane in terms of setting up the power sources, lining them up, and we know that we have a mechanical drainage system, and invariably something is going to go wrong. But we also have plans, plan A, plan B, plan C in terms of backup to the backup, and it's all documented. It's all thought out, and then when something happens, we know exactly what we need to do, and as fast as we can do it.
Well, listen, we're talking to Ghassan Corbin, the Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board. If you have any questions or concerns for him, the number here is 504-582-9422. But speaking of that collaboration that you have, do you believe that it has had any sort of impact on the operational efficiency of the East Bank and West Bank water waste treatment centers? Like that partnership you have, what is it, the company called Veolia? Is that the name of the company? Has it impacted the operational efficiency of the East Bank and West Bank wastewater treatment plants?
Well, we're at the early stages of that technology, so we know for a fact it will pay dividend. It's just because of the very recent installation, we just haven't we haven't seen the numbers because it's just it's too early to tell, but all signs and all indications it will be very fruitful for us.
How do you envision the future of water management in New Orleans over next decade, particularly in the context of climate change?
Well, we all know and we see it. The rains are becoming more and more intense. It's just there's no ifs and buts about it. I mean, when we're having 8 and 9 inches of rain events, within a couple hours, it's evident, it's clear, and there's really no amount of gray infrastructure that we have in the city that can handle that intensity. And that's what you're gonna see, more and more water backing into streets, and you're gonna have localized flooding, if not worse. So our hope is to bring more of nature-based solutions, meaning green infrastructure, where we can find massive pieces of property that we can contain that water on a temporary basis, kind of give the pipes and the canals a break, and store that water until such time where the water may have receded, and then we can just, obviously pump that water back in the system.
Listen, we have to go to break, Bob. Hold on for me, please. I know you have a question for Ghassan. We want you to hold to after the break. We're talking to Ghassan Corbin here at WBOK. He's the Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board. If you have a question or concern for him, the number here is 504-582-9422. Stay with us after the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Today is a first warning weather impact day. We're under a red flag warning due to extremely low humidity and gusty winds. This means fire can spread easily if one is sparked. Expect wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour with highs only in the upper 60s and low 70s. We'll see sunshine. Overnight temperatures fall to the 40s and 50s. More sunshine expected for the rest of the week. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Tired of the impersonal, one-size-fit-all style of banking? You deserve a bank that delivers exceptional service and personalized attention to your needs. That's the Home Bank Standard. Since 1908, Home Bank has been a trusted financial partner for businesses and families because we go the extra mile to help you reach your goals. See for yourself why Home Bank is good for business, good for life. Stop by any New Orleans area location or find out more at home24bank.com. Home Bank, member FDIC.
Keep up with NOLA Public Schools through Education Elevation. Join Superintendent Dr. Avis Williams monthly as she shares district updates, celebrates schools, scholars, and more. Tune in every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m.
Are you ready to make a difference in your community? Join me, Randy Chambliss, and my co-hosts Dion Dana and Barry Mallory on Helping the Village Radio Show, where we raise awareness, advocate for real solutions, and coordinate supportive services to prevent and reduce homelessness. We're connecting the dots to build stronger, thriving communities. Tune in every first and third Saturday at 2 p.m. as we collaborate with local leaders, real estate investors, and nonprofits, working together to provide hope and opportunity for those in need. Helping the Village Radio Show, empowering change one community at a time.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt in studio as my co-host this morning is
Senator Wesley Bishop.
Senator Wesley Bishop, and in studio as our guest is Gasson Corbin, Executive Director of Sewage and Water Board. We have a call on line 2. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Bob, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing very well. My question is, as far as for senior citizens, why is it that our water bills do not have a set date? I mean, you know, the water bills, they may get it, and it's due in the 8th one month. Then the next one is due on the 14th. Then the next one is due on the 16th. That's the only bill that they have that is not constant that we pay. All bills, homeowners, electrical bills, your credit cards, they're due on a certain date. Why are we having floating dates on when the bill is due?
Thank you for your question. Why do we have floating dates on when the Sewage and Water Board bill is due?
Well, that is a great question. Mm-hmm. That's probably by far one of the most common issues that we have in terms of billing. And I believe the caller is talking about the fluctuation, the up and down. It's not a constant. If your consumption is constant, so should your bill be constant, right? So what's happening now is, and you know, there's a solution that's imminent. So we'll talk about that in a second. But we have to read 140,000 meters every month to produce the 140,000 bills, okay, to be timely and accurate. The issue is that we don't have the resources, the number of meter readers that we need. We tried every possible way to be able to do that, and we haven't been able to do that. So we end up doing a lot of estimates, calculated bills basically, every month. And that creates a lot of fluctuation. And that has been our Achilles heel from day one. That's been our biggest issue. So today, we just formalized what we call a flat bill. That is consistent with the new legislation that was created earlier this year. So to the caller, he will be given the option to agree to a flat bill, flat rate, from now until he receives a smart meter. At such time,
So Ghassan, I think his question was more so to the date issue. Are the dates fluctuating? Because we understand consumption may fluctuate from one month to the other, or
but it shouldn't.
however that works.
Yeah.
Is the date moving to the caller's point?
I think he may be talking about sometimes we send you a bill for 20 days and then next bill could be 40 to make up for the missing
Okay.
10 from the other one.
Okay.
And that's because of the lack of consistency and ability to capture or read on timely fashion, meaning every 30 days.
Okay.
So we're struggling with the resources and the process itself. So we acknowledge that, and we know it creates a lot of
So it's not
issues.
necessarily that the date is moving because it's moving. It's moving because sometimes you get a bill generated for the first 20 days, and then you may have to tack on the other 10 to the other bill. So that's why another bill is generated on another date.
So the process is very convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of manual labor involved, meaning if it rains 2-3 days or whatever
People
the
can't get
case
out
may
to
be,
read
we
it.
can get out,
Yeah.
and that those 3 days cause a lot of
Gotcha.
disruption in the process. And now we end up estimating, and then by the time we get the actual bill sent out, it may be reflective of more than 30 days, so it's more maybe 40.
So is that why you guys are leaning to the automation issue so that you can
Absolutely.
the efficiency part of getting the bills out and timely and consistent?
100%.
Okay.
So any smart meter that you're receiving now, and it will enable us to send you on consistent basis, timely and accurate bill. So it would reflect a very steady and constant period, meaning 30 days.
Got you. We have Ghassan, you have the phone lines lit up. Good morning,
Okay.
Aaron. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
We're good.
My question is, why as it relates to sewage and water board, why we always have to wait until it's storm season to want to fix the problems that sewage and water board has, or the pumps or the pipes? Why, when it's the summertime or when it's winter or whatever, whenever it's not rain season, why we can't take and focus on the problems that we have as it relates to sewage and water board, so when rain or storm season comes, we will be ahead of the game, almost ahead of the game. I'm going to hang up and listen.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. We are at 24/7, 365. We're nonstop. Our workforce is out there day and night, weekends. We never stop improving our system. We don't wait for an
A
event,
circumstance to happen,
but
yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes that's when those issues are more pronounced. When
Yes.
something breaks down during a storm, we are obligated to share with our public, and then obviously we have to address that. So that's where those situations get a lot of attention while things are breaking and being fixed all year round.
Yeah. Line 2, Keith, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning, and thank you for taking the call. I'm trying to find out why is it my sewer bill is always higher than my water bill. My water bill might be $22 and my sewer bill be $30. I don't understand that math there.
Okay.
You can't put out more than you're taking in.
Okay, thank you for your question, Keith.
Yeah,
Ghassan?
so that's a very common you can call it imbalance, but a fact that our sewer system, well, first of all, the rates are predicated on the cost of the system itself, what it takes to bring you water to your house and what it takes to collect sewer and treat it. So it's all been studied, analyzed, and it's invariably the case in anywhere you go in this country where sewer charges are higher than water charges, and it's based on a formula. So if you use 100 gallons, there's a set formula that tells me how much water you've returned, and the cost of that is just per gallon is higher than the water that you drink.
So I hope that answered your question, Keith. We have another caller, last caller, Cliff. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I was calling because I just want to alert people if they have that. I had a smart meter installed, and I flushed the tub like they said, let the water run for 15 minutes or so, and a lot of dirt came out. But once I did that, I had my house totally redone after Ida with plumbing and electrical because we got flooded. And I had the plumber install some of that PEX line to some of my utilities, my commode, the bathtub, and in my kitchen. So once they did that, I no longer had water pressure, cold water pressure for my commode, my bathtub, and my kitchen. So I called Sewage and Water Board. They came out, they checked the pressure in front of the house. It was fine because I have good pressure in my bathroom Facebook, but not the commode, the bathtub, and in the kitchen. And I also sent, I called Aquametric, and they gave me a reference number. I talked to the lady, that's the water meter people, and they never got back with me. So I'm kind of stuck with, like, I guess it's something clogged up, between the commode, the bathtub, and my kitchen, only on the cold water side. So I don't know if there's anything I could do about it, no more than maybe get a plumber. He would have to probably tear my wall up. So I'm just trying to get some feedback on that from Mr. Corbin, or is there any kind of solution to that, or is I have to come out of pocket, or what can I do in that matter? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you for your question.
So I can make a couple suggestions. So briefly, though, anytime you interrupt the water, basically, but when you cut the pipe off to replace the meter, all the water in your plumbing drains back into the hole, right? And then we reintroduce water back into your pipes after the installation is complete. And then when you do that, typically there's some, I'm going to call it debris or crud that has been sitting in the pipes, some things that flake off, and that water pushes all these particulates forward, and invariably they get stuck in that. There's a tiny screen at the end of your faucet. So what I would suggest is maybe clean those screens the best you can. Just undo them. You can do it by hand. Just flush them out, clean them out. You're likely to see some stuff in there.
So can somebody go over to his home and check?
Well, he can just simply undo that, and eventually it will correct itself because those particulates will keep moving and will be flushed away.
So listen, we want to thank you because I'm trying to tell you this was the hot seat this morning, and you handled it like a champ, Ghassan. So thank you for being here and sharing your expertise with us. We want to also thank our callers for the pertinent information.
Absolutely.
But I have one other thing for you to consider. The last time you were on, there was a caller that raised an issue about flooding and drainage issues on the old road and Old Gentilly Road by what they consider the forgotten community. And you promised the listening audience that you will look into it. Like, I just want you to put that, on your radar and look into the flooding and draining issues on the old road.
Absolutely.
For our listening audience. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving us this invaluable information. Listen, the WBOK listening audience is a tough bunch, but you handled it. And you did it with such grace. So we appreciate you for being here. You going to come back?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Ask me and I will come back.
Absolutely. It's been a wonderful, dynamic show. We talked to Ghassan Corbin, Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans. We had some call-ins from some candidates running for the school board races. Today was up.
Very informed.
Today was up. So listen, I invite you to stay with us for the front porch with Graylin and Kemper. This has been a wonderful show. Join us tomorrow for the Good Morning Show. This is WBOK 1230 AM. I am Dr. Ashanta White. My co-host today was
Senator Wesley Bishop.
Stay tuned to the front porch, WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.